of all, we'd like to thank all the sponsors that have made this possible. Incredible India, Google, British Airways, Ford. This venue is sponsored by Ford, and Mahindra Humanities Center. Those are all our sponsors for the venues. Z Entertainment, our main sponsor, and Rajniganda, our other main sponsor, and all of our partners, Amazon, Coca-Cola, Public Diplomacy, Rajasthan Tourism, Amity University, UN Women, The Glenlivet, MTS, Rajasthan Patrika, Hindu Times, DNA, Dainik Bhaskar, Radio Mirchi, Ambit, Meghalaya, Aga Khan Foundation, John Michalski Foundation, Indian Quarterly, Penguin Random House, YPOWPO, our venue partner, Hotel Diggy Palace, our other partners, Rambagh Palace, The Meridian, Clark's Amer, our healthcare partner, Fortis, our ticketing partner, Kiazunga, our decor partner, Royal Treasure, Kingfisher, and our hospitality partners, ITC Hotel and the Oberoi. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not leave your bags unattended, as the festival is unable to take responsibility for any losses. Please ensure your phones are placed on silent at all times. If you need to have an urgent conversation, please step outside to take this. No flash photography is permitted in the venue. The festival requests that you help keep the venue clean at all times. There are waste baskets across the venue. Please keep the aisles free at all times. This is for your own safety and security. As you can see, this festival will also be using social media. Please tweet using the hashtag, which is up on the screen. In an emergency, please remain calm and evacuate through the closest exit, which is through the back of the venue. And Nina will give the announcements in Hindi as well.
सिर्फ ज़रूरी अनाउंसमेंट्स मैं दोबारा हिंदी में दोहरा रही हूँ. अपना कीमती सामान और अपने बैग्स प्लीज़ अपने साथ रखें. कृपया अपने फ़ोन साइलेंट मोड पे डालें और अगर बात करना ज़रूरी है तो वेन्यू के बाहर ऑडियंस में नहीं बात करें. फ्लैश फोटोग्राफी सख्त मना है और जो बीच का रास्ता है वो प्लीज़ खाली छोड़ें ताकि लोगों को अंदर आते हुए दिक्कत ना हो और बाहर जाने में भी आसानी हो. थैंक यू.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Z Jaipur Literary Festival. This is the Ford Samvad venue. We are delighted to introduce Wild Magic by Kat Weatherill. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we are really looking forward to a magical, magical session. Over to you, Kat.
Thank you. Ole, 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 ole. Good morning, welcome to you all. Good morning, welcome to you all, you gorgeous girls. Mwah. Yes, yes, blow me a kiss, come on. Mwah. Mwah. I love you all. It is wonderful to be here. Here in Jaipur, I am having a wonderful, wonderful love affair with India. I'm on an adventure. I have just come from Goa. I have spent 5 weeks in Goa in a bikini. On the beach, girls, look at my toes. Look at my mermaid toes. I have had a lovely time over Christmas and New Year. Part of an adventure that began for me back in November, because although I am a storyteller and an author, I think life is about having adventures. And I think you can't begin to tell stories or write stories unless you've already been out there in the world living. You need to get out there and you need to touch and taste and feel and experience everything this wonderful, wonderful world has to offer. So this adventure I am on began in November when I flew to Cairo to see the pyramids. Ever since I was about 12 years old, when I first read the story of the boy king Tutankhamun with his great golden death mask, I wanted to see the pyramids. I wanted to go to the Valley of the Kings there in Egypt and see where these wonderful pharaohs were buried. And it's taken me a long, long time. But as I say, in November, that's where I was. And I was able to go inside a pyramid. I didn't even know such a thing was possible. Did you know that? Did you know you could go inside the pyramids? We knew you can. You climb up and up and up and up into the burial chamber. And you can see where the pharaoh was laid to rest. And then I flew to the Valley of the Kings and I sailed on the Nile at sunset in a felucca, one of those big boats with the wonderful sails. And from there I flew to Delhi and on and into the Punjab, and I went to Ludhiana and I went to the Kahani Festival, a great storytelling festival up there. Thousands of children came and I told them stories, stories that I tell all around the world. And so my adventure has been continuing, and it's lovely to be here with you people today. My name is Kat. I am a storyteller, a writer, an adventurer, a dreamer. I have a head full of stories. I know magical stories, I know true stories, I know funny stories, I know ghost stories, all kinds of stories. Some of my stories are really quite dark, quite strange, and I think I am going to begin today with a story that is quite strange about a boy called Kenzo. This is a story that comes from old, old Japan, and it's about a boy who loved to draw. Now, does anyone here love to draw? Does anyone love to draw? And does anyone draw the same thing over and over again? Who loves to draw? Girls, you've got your hands up. What do you like to draw?
I draw traditional art.
Traditional art. Who else? Who else likes to draw things? You just had your hand up. What do you like drawing?
Anything I see around.
Anything you see around. This boy, Kenzo, he loved to draw cats. Over and over and over again, he would draw cats. And it's an old story. So he didn't have a pen. He had a little pot of ink and a feathery quill. And with just a few strokes of his quill, he could draw the most beautiful cats. Well, Kenzo came from a big family. He had 5 brothers. And as they grew up in front of him, they were big, they were strong. They went to work on the land as farmers. But when Kenzo got to 16, he was still quite small. And his parents said, "What are we going to do with Kenzo? He can't be a farmer. Look, he's not strong enough to take all the weather and the lifting and the carrying." Now, outside the village where they were living, there was a temple. And they said, "He's a clever boy. Maybe he could be a priest. Maybe he could go to the temple and he could be a student." So they went to talk to the head priest. And the priest said, "Well, I don't know, is your boy clever?" And they said, "Yes, he's very clever. He's just not very big." And the priest said, "Well, send him along and we'll see how he gets on." So the very next day, Kenzo packed all he had in the world, just a few little things in a bag. He went along to the temple. The priest welcomed him in, took him to a little room. There was a table and a chair, and on the table there were books and pieces of paper, little pot of ink, feathery quills, and the priest left him on his own to begin his studies. And Kenzo sat down and he opened the first of the books and he began to read. But they had put this table in a very bad place for Kenzo because it was next to the window. And I don't know about you good people, but he was a dreamer. He was clever, but he found it hard to concentrate. Now, do any of you here have the same problem? Do you have that same problem that your thoughts just wander away? Well, that's how he was. His thoughts drifted up with the clouds, and soon he was doodling. He'd taken one of those feathery quills and he was drawing his cats, and he drew them all over the paper. He drew them all on the covers of the books. And when the priest came back after an hour, he said, "Oh, Kenzo, what have you been doing with your time? You aren't going to be a student. I can see that you can't study, but I have to say, these are very good cats. You should be an artist. That is your gift. I can't teach you that. You will have to go. But before you go, I would like to give you a little bit of advice. At night, when it's time to sleep, never sleep in a big space. Always sleep in a small space." And Kenzo thought that was very strange advice to be given, but he remembered it. And off he went. And he walked and he walked and he walked. And he didn't go home because he was too ashamed to tell his parents they had thrown him out after just one morning. So he walked and he walked and he walked. And by the end of the second day, he was getting so cold, so tired, so hungry. It was starting to get dark. He was coming along the road, and in the distance, on a small hill, he saw a temple, a new temple, a different one, with a warm golden light shining out from inside. And he said, "I can go there. The priests don't know me there. They will give me food and a bed for the night." And so he left the safety of the path and he started to go up the twisting, turning path to that temple on the top of the hill. But he didn't know it, but this temple was abandoned. No one lived there anymore. The priests had all left it in the middle of the night, like this, because there was a demon, a terrible demon, had come down out of the mountains. They had all run, screaming for their lives. And now it was only the demon there. And it was the demon every night that was lighting the lantern. Now, girls, why was the demon lighting the lantern every night? Trap, exactly. It was to lure people in. Kenzo, coming along the road, was a perfect victim. Cold, tired, hungry, he came. He arrived at the gates. He rang the bell, waited. No one came. Strange. Rang the bell again. Still, no one came. So he opened the door and went in. Well, the compound was just abandoned. No one there at all, just no one. He went from building to building, completely empty. And then he came to the temple building itself. Beautiful, beautiful golden temple. Golden ceiling, golden pillars, golden walls. No one there. But there was something about this temple he really, really liked, because going down one wall of this temple, there were big screens, big white silk screens, Japanese silk, nothing on them, perfect for painting. And he thought, I bet somewhere in here I can find paint and brushes. And he started to look, and in a cupboard he found a big box of paints, big thick brushes, and he spent an hour painting on these screens, covering them with cats, but cats as big as tigers, curling cats, leaping cats, clawing cats. And when he'd finished that, he was starting to feel tired. And he was just going to curl up right there on the temple floor when he remembered that strange bit of advice. What had he been told? You've forgotten. Who remembers? What was this important bit of advice? Yes. Yes, exactly. Don't sleep in a big space, sleep in a small. Well, this temple was huge. So he looked around, and there at the back of the temple, there was like a little cupboard, little storeroom, only small, but it had blankets on the floor. Perfect. And Kenzo went in, and he wrapped himself in the blankets, and soon he was fast asleep. But in the middle of the night, he woke up because there was a sound. Suddenly it seemed as if the whole of the building was being ripped apart, furniture being thrown around and smashed, and grunts and roars and grunts, and Kenzo wrapped himself in the blankets, terrified that whatever was out there was going to come in and just rip his head off. And it went on and on and on and on until silence came, and all he could hear was his own terrified heart. Well, he must have fallen asleep, because in the morning he awoke and it was dark, and he had no idea how much time had passed. But he thought, I'll have to go. I can't spend the rest of my life in a cupboard. So he opened the door, and instantly he smelt it. Oh, that thick, rusty tang of old blood. And as he pushed the door further, he saw the demon. The demon was a rat, a huge rat, as big as a cow, with a big, long, bald, pink tail, teeth and claws like daggers. But it was dead, completely ripped to pieces, shredded. And when he looked, there on his screens were his cats, still as he had drawn them, but they had dried blood around their mouths and on their claws. Well, Kenzo got out of there. He didn't hang around to see what would happen next. He was off. And he went walking, and in time he did find somewhere where he was able to study and train. And he became a very fine artist, but he never forgot that strange night. Never forgot that bit of advice. Never sleep in a big space, always sleep in a small. And he never forgot how his life had been saved by his ability to draw cats. Thank you. The strange tale of Kenzo, the boy who could draw cats. Now, I was hoping to be able to show you a copy of my book, Wild Magic, but I don't have one. Like I said, I have been traveling for weeks now, and I didn't bring any books with me. And I asked them if they could have a copy here at the festival, and they don't seem to have one in the whole of the festival. But it's a book called Wild Magic, and you've all got your tablets and your phones, and if you Google it, you will find it on Amazon. And it was my third book. It is a fantasy book, because very often I think when people start writing books, they write the kind of book that they enjoyed reading when they were a child. If you're a children's author, it's nice to go back to that world of magic and enchantment that you loved when you were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 and beyond. And so those were the kind of books that I loved when I was growing up, and still the kind of books that I like now, both as a reader and also as a writer. I grew up in a place called Liverpool, and I know Liverpool to some of you people sounds like really, really exciting, because it is the city of the Beatles, it is the city of football. But when I was growing up, these things didn't really mean much to me. I was growing up in a backstreet house, tiny little house, no garden, just a yard at the back. We didn't have a car, we didn't have computer, we didn't even have a television. I had the tiniest room in the house. That was my bedroom. I think I just had a bed and a bookcase, and that was about it. But I had my books, and I loved having books, because to me, being able to open a book and read was like being able to open a window and just fly off into another world, a world far more magical and colourful than this grey, cold world of England that I was growing up in. And I did go on some wonderful, wonderful adventures. One night, I was in bed. I was reading my book, and suddenly I found myself in a wardrobe. And the wardrobe was full of fur coats. And when I pushed the coats aside, I saw it was snowing. And there was a street lamp burning in the middle of the day. Once I was reading my book, and suddenly, bang, the window opened, and in flew a strange boy. And he took me by the hand, and he flew me out over the rooftops to a never, never land. And we were fighting with pirates, and there was a crocodile with an alarm clock ticking in its tummy. And once I was reading my book, and I found myself standing on a street outside a factory. And there was an enormous pair of golden gates, and the air was thick with the scent of chocolate, and I had a golden ticket. A golden ticket that would take me through those gates into Willy Wonka's magical chocolate factory. And to me, when I was given the gift of reading, it was like being given a golden ticket. A magical golden ticket that would open doors and windows, that would give me a pair of wings that would fly me to wherever I wanted to go in the world. And all you good people have been given that same gift. You all have this golden ticket of reading. And if you work hard at your lessons, and I know you young people in India work incredibly hard, those golden tickets become real. It seems to me that my golden ticket that I was given back in Liverpool on those back streets when I was 6 has become a real golden ticket. It flies me all around the world. I have flown to Singapore to tell stories. I've been to the Russias, to Kazakhstan, to Moscow, all around Europe, across to South America, adventures in Peru and Bolivia. It has brought me here today to meet all you lovely people, all you handsome boys, and all you gorgeous girls, and all the new friends I am going to make. So hold on to your tickets, travel wherever you want to go. I do believe that if you can dream it, you can make it happen. You have to be a dreamer, but you have to be a practical dreamer. Dreaming is no good unless you have the skills in your bag to make these dreams come true. And one of the finest skills you can have is the art of communicating, the art of language. Learn your languages, play with words, have fun, and the world will be yours to take. But it is time, oh thank you, time for another story. What kind of story would you people like? Would you like another strange story? Would you like to hear more about my book? Would you like, well what? Well what? I have no plan. Who's got an idea? Who wants to hear something? What would you like to know? Most in the world, what would you like from me? A mystery story. You like a mystery, a strange story, a mystery story. This is a story then, comes all the way from Italy. It's a story about a young man. Yes, he was 17, a young man. His name was Massimo. He had grown up on a vineyard. Now, you know what a vineyard is? It's where they grow the grapes, they make the wine. So he had grown up on this fine Italian vineyard. Everyone was expecting Massimo to carry on that work, to be the vineyard manager in his time like his father was. But Massimo, no. Massimo wanted to travel the world, and now he was traveling around Italy looking for somewhere he could live, somewhere he could work. And he walked and he walked and he walked. And one night, he came to a village, and there at the end of the village was an old house, a very grand house in its time, but now it was falling down. The roof needed mending, the paint was peeling, the garden was wild with weeds. But there was a light shining out from one of the downstairs windows. So Massimo went up the path and he knocked on the door and he waited. And the door opened and there stood an old woman. Her face rolled in wrinkles, watery, wet eyes. "What do you want?" she said. "I want somewhere to live," he said. "That's all. I can work. I can clean your house for you. I can tidy the garden. I can cook you a meal in the evening. What do you say?" And the old woman said nothing. She just looked him up and down and beckoned him in. And she took him into that room where the light had been burning, and she sat herself down in the chair next to a smoky old fire. And she said, "You can stay. You can do these things. You can clean and you can cook. I would like that. You can find a room for yourself. The house has many rooms. Here, choose whichever one you want." And she took out of her pocket a big bundle of keys. She said, "These keys will open every door in the house. Choose which room you like. There's just one door I don't want you to open. One key I don't want you to use." And she looked through the keys and she showed him a key. And Massimo said, "Why? What room does that one open?" And she said, "It is the blue door beneath the stairs." And he said, "Okay, I won't go in there, but where does it lead?" "To the wine cellar," she said. "Oh," said Massimo, "I love wine. I grew up on a vineyard. Oh, it is my favorite drink. My first glass, and I would be smiling. My second glass, I would be singing. My third glass, you would be dead." She said, "Listen to me, boy. Do not go through the blue door. Do not drink my wine. It is bad. It will taste bad on your tongue. The first glass is bad, but the second is worse, and the third will kill you to end the curse. And Massimo said, fine, very well. If that's what you're saying, I promise you, I won't go in the cellar. I won't drink your wine. Good, she said. And he took the bundle of keys and off he went in the house, and he found a perfect bedroom for himself. And he made himself at home. And he did what he said. He cleaned the house, he tidied the garden a little. Every evening he would bring her a big bowl of soup. But the old woman did nothing except sit in that chair by the fire crying all day long. One night he was amazed. He gave her the bowl of soup and he saw her drink it down, and then she filled the bowl with her own tears. And then one morning, when he went to her bedroom to take her a glass of water as usual, he found the old woman's bed empty. And when he went downstairs, he found her there in the downstairs room, the fire cold, full of ashes, and she was dead, quite dead. Whatever it is that makes us breathe and blink had gone from her. But she didn't look happy. Sitting there in her chair, she looked older and sadder than ever. And on the table beside her, there was an empty wine glass. Well, that was it. Massimo had no reason to stay anymore. So he arranged the funeral. On the day of the funeral, the rain came down, hard and cold and heavy, so no one came. He was the only one standing at the grave as she was buried with the priest. And then he went back to that old house and he tidied things up. He took a little bit of jewelry, some of the old woman's things, a little silver bracelet, some earrings, a little silver teapot she had. She wouldn't need these things anymore. And then he started locking all the doors and fastening the windows. And on his way out, he suddenly came past that blue door underneath the stairs. And he thought, I wonder what was down there. What's like through that door? And he had the keys in his hand. And he thought, well, I could just have a little look, couldn't I? 'Cause what can happen now? And so he sorted through the keys. He tried them. Sure enough, one fitted. He opened the blue door. He found himself a candle. He went down the stairs into the wine cellar, and he was expecting it to be cold and wet, but it wasn't. It was kind of cool but pleasant. And also he was expecting to see lots and lots and lots of bottles of wine, but it was strange. There were just 10 bottles of wine against the wall, covered in dust. Strange. And he put down the candle. He pulled out the first of the bottles. Looked like a red wine. And he remembered her words, her warning. And he thought, but I could just have a little bit of a sniff, couldn't I? Just a bit of a smell of it. Wouldn't do me any harm. And so he took the corkscrew and he pulled out the cork, and oh, this wine smelled good. This wine didn't smell bad. Sour? He thought, I'll just have a look, because the colour of wine is so important, you know. And so he picked up a glass and he poured out this beautiful, rich, ruby red wine. Oh, there in the candlelight, it looked delicious, and oh, it really did smell heavenly. And he thought, well, I don't have to drink it all, do I? Just a little taste on my tongue. What would you do? Would you taste it? No, you wouldn't taste it. Would you taste it? No. Oh, but he loved wine. He knew about wine, and he thought, oh. He tasted it. Oh, it was the most delicious wine he had ever tasted. It exploded on its tongue. He could almost feel the colors of the wine. So this is heavenly. And he drank, and he drank it all down, and it was just the best wine ever. And he said, well, look, he said, that wily old woman, she just didn't want me getting my hands on this wonderful wine. It was an old wives' tale, and she was talking in opposites, because she said the first one is bad, the second is worse. Well, this was good. So the next glass will be better. So he took up the bottle and he poured himself a second glass. Oh, and it was. This second glass of wine was even more divine than the first, and he drank it all down. And he was just thinking whether or not he should have the third glass when he saw a little spot on his hand, just a little brown mark, like an age spot, and it wouldn't go. And then he saw he had them on other hands, and then it was starting to spread up his arm, and the flesh on his skin was starting to look old and wrinkled, and he put his hand to his hair and it came out. The hairs came out, white as winter. No, he said, no. And he went to the stairs and he tried to fight his way out of the cellar, but holding on to the rail to help himself up the stairs, his bones were aching, his back was sore, he seemed to have no strength in his legs, and he pulled himself back up into the house, came along the landing to the mirror, and when he looked in the mirror, he saw an old man, his face covered in wrinkles, his eyes wet and watery. No. And as he stood there, there came a knocking at the door. And he went and he opened it. And there stood a young girl on the doorstep, maybe 17 years old. What do you want? He said, just somewhere to live. She said, I could tidy your house. I could do work in the garden. I could cook you supper in the evening. What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? Thank you. Well, time is flying by. I would love to leave some time for questions because I think we do have a roving mic. Has anyone got any questions they would like to ask? Do put your hand up if there's anything you'd like to know, and I will answer your questions. No one got anything they want to ask? Any ideas? Yes, we've got a question here. You want to bring the microphone across? There we go. Let's see what people say.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
I'm also a reader like you, and I would just like to ask what piece of advice you would give to us.
To teachers.
What piece of advice? I'm a student.
Oh, you're a student.
College
You're a student. You're studying what?
I'm engineering.
You're an engineer.
Yeah.
Wow. So what would you like? What would you like advice on?
Actually, when I saw you, and I just thought, I want to be like you. You know, I love stories and I love reading and everything. But you know, with studies, I never get time to actually read. So, what piece of advice regarding the books and reading and your life, your experience, anything?
Ooh, well, I think one of the great things in life is staying young and staying playful. And I think stories are a great way of connecting with that kind of joy and wonder of childhood that so many people seem to lose. As an engineer, I think that's a wonderful thing, to go out and change the world. As I get older, I think this is one of the most important things. It's to do with connecting with people and to just change lives in some small way. And sometimes you can change a life just in a minute, just by stopping and listening to someone's story. I think this is very, very important. To tell stories, we need to be able to listen. And sometimes a storyteller is only ever as good as the quality of the listening. And listening is so important. Hearing someone else's story. Wars in the world seem to be starting because people aren't listening to other people's stories, or they're hearing the wrong story, telling the wrong stories. So listening is so important. I do like Facebook. I think it's a great way of keeping connected. And I love the little bits of wisdom that come up now and again on Facebook. And there was something I saw just the other day. And think about this, because it's a really, really clever line. It said, these days, people listen just so they can reply. And when you think about that, what it means is that these days, so many people, they're not really taking it in. They just want to speak. And so they're just kind of, give me an opportunity to speak. I want to give you my opinion, my thoughts. And they're not really interested in listening to what the other person is saying. So we should listen really because we want to listen, not because we want to speak. I was told that we have 2 ears and 1 tongue, and we should use them in that same ratio. We should listen twice as much as we speak. And the Buddha said that if you don't have anything beautiful to say, then just keep silent. I do speak. Sometimes it gets me into trouble. I have to learn to keep my tongue to myself. But listening, I think, is one of the greatest things. And that's why a festival like this is wonderful, because there are so many ideas and thoughts and stories and images floating around. And we can all just indulge ourselves all week long in the luxury of listening. Listening doesn't cost any money. And listening is one of the greatest gifts in the world. Anyone else got any questions that they would like to ask? We've got one out here, yes. We can get the microphone down there. That would be lovely.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to say I think you're a marvelously animated storyteller.
Thank you. I can't stand still, can I?
I love all the energy you had, especially the golden ticket analogy earlier. So my question is pertaining to that. While growing up as a child, what do you think was your favorite childhood book?
My favorite children's book when I was growing up as a child. I did, as I say, I did like the fantasy books. We didn't have as much choice of books as we have now, as the children have now. We had Enid Blyton. Do you have Enid Blyton out here? Is in India? Does Enid Blyton? The Secret Seven and the Famous Five. I especially loved the Secret Seven. I loved all her adventures. I liked things like Alice in Wonderland, the old classics, things like Tom's Midnight Garden. Those kind of books, like the Narnia books, where something happens. Someone opens a door, goes into another world. And you can see even now as a storyteller, I am still using that idea of opening a door and going into another world. Some of these images that we pick up from children's books are very, very potent, and they stay with us for the rest of our lives. So I've always liked books that are full of possibilities. What excites me in life is possibilities and having the freedom to pursue these possibilities. I don't like being trapped, I don't like being chained, I don't like being tethered. I love being free, whether it's a freedom of thought or indeed to have the freedom of travel. So those kind of books, I would think, are the books where children escape and go off on adventures. And you will notice in books, children's books, that those opening chapters of books are all to do usually with getting children into a state where they can travel and where they are on their own. If a child is with its parents or its guardians, it's hard in a book for that child to have adventures because there is someone looking after the child. And so if you look at the stories that you like, you will notice that very often those opening chapters are to do with getting the child away from someone who is going to care for them. Harry Potter is a good example of this. His parents are dead, so they are not looking after him. The Narnia books, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, they are living in London with their parents, but for the adventure to happen, they have to be removed to a house in a country where they are able to wander and explore rooms on their own, and then the magic can begin. When children go through these doorways into other worlds, whether it's Alice going down a rabbit hole, or in my stories, people going through doors, they have to do it alone. And again, this is one of the things that you learn about life. I am traveling on this adventure on my own. And sometimes it's a bit scary to be traveling on your own, but you have conversations with people and you get invited to do things in India, especially when you are on your own. When I was in Agra for 3 days, and my lovely rickshaw driver became such a friend that he let me drive his rickshaw. He said, "You want to have a go on my Indian Ferrari?" And he moved over and he let me drive his rickshaw. And then he took me back to his house, and his wife had cooked me a lovely meal, and we sat on the bed and ate it. And things like that are wonderful if you travel on your own. So I would advise that as well. Be bold, be brave, go out into the world, especially the girls. Go out into the world and travel on your own. And you will be fine. You will be fine. One more question. One more. Yes, we've got over here. Yes, we'll just wait for a mic and then we'll come.
Did you ever have any stage fright, or do you have any funny stories about when you started storytelling? Something like that.
Do I have any stories about?
Stage fright.
Oh,
or
stage fright. Actually, I think a little bit of nervousness is good because it gives you an edge and it makes you more in the moment. If you are too confident, you are too complacent and you just go out and you tell it. So having a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of edge, I find makes you raise your game and it makes you concentrate that much more. The other thing I learned quite early on as a storyteller is that I was trying to be perfect. I wanted simply to be the best I could be. And so I would rehearse, and when I did festivals, if anything went wrong, I would be upset because it wasn't perfect. And I would get so worried that the show was going to go well. And I was speaking to one of the older storytellers, and she said, "Kat, why are you trying to be perfect? You will never be perfect, for one thing. And if you were perfect, you would be a robot. And what people like in the audience, what they respond to and connect to, is your humanity. People in the audience like it when things go wrong. You know, they like it when you fall over your microphone, or you have coughing fits. Sometimes I cough on stage. And those are the things that make us real and make us human. So it's coming up here and being kind of naked. Storytelling is a very naked art, as opposed to acting where you wear the clothes of a character. Storytelling is very naked and very bold, but it's lovely to do. So the only time I get anxious is when I go to Austria and I have to tell in German. Because I don't speak German very well, and having to tell in 2 languages when I'm speaking German in front of thousands of Germans, that is when it gets a little bit nervous. But thankfully today you have listened beautifully in your beautiful English. So thank you for sharing this journey with me today. Thank you for being a part of this ongoing adventure of mine. I am here at the festival for another 5 days, so if any of you have any more questions that you were too shy to ask, or you just want to grab me and hug me and kiss me and buy me tea and whatever you want, that is very, very nice. Do come and talk to me. I'm a cat, but I don't have claws. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Wow, let's give her a hand, Kat Weatherill.
Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. We'd like to present you with a small token of our appreciation.
Lovely.
And let's give another hand.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have one announcement. If you'd like to tweet about the sessions that happen, especially at Ford Samvad, please use the hashtag Ford Samvad, all in one word together, and we'll be putting that up on the screen shortly. I have a few announcements about our sponsors. Once again, we'd like to thank Ford for sponsoring this venue. We'd also like to thank Incredible India, our book partner Amazon, our beverage partner Coca-Cola, our university partner Amity University, our data partner MTS, and Rajasthan Tourism. We'd also like to thank our media partners, Rajasthan Patrika, Hindustan Times, DNA, Dainik Bhaskar, Radio Mirchi. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you stick around for a few more minutes until 12:30, we have a really